and consciousness are the same thing, or more accurately, that emotions are states of consciousness. For example, half an hour ago I came down to the fire and started talking, and we all entered into a non-ordinary state of consciousness together, a sort of group euphoria. 15 or 20 minutes later, we had all returned to ordinary consciousness. That's an example of an altered state, not so different than being in a blinding rage or head over heels in love. You look back on something like that from your normal state, and it seems like you were a different person. Drugs, breath work, meditation, and other things can alter your state of consciousness. But self-realization, truth realization, isn't a state of consciousness. I look around at firelit faces and see frustration. They don't understand how it can be possible to get something that's not within their reach, to be something they can't become. You want to bring this whole thing down to the level where you can deal with it. But that's not possible. Truth isn't an idea or a concept. It's not in libraries or in the words of sages. It doesn't come in a flash of insight or a peak experience. It's not a feeling of bliss or ecstasy. It's not a concept to be understood or a feeling to be experienced. It's not in your heart or your mind. It's further. There's a charge in the air. The fire is dancing. The light rain is falling. But there's another element present as well. Everyone is on. Everyone is plugged into the words. Everyone is very present and focused. They sense that they may be on the verge of taking an important step forward. And if all goes well, they are. So you're saying, says Randy, you're saying that all religions and philosophies, see, this is where I can't wrap my mind around it. You're basically saying that all of man's spiritual teachings, like none of them are... He stops, not even sure how to frame the question, but I know it's the question they all want to ask. To my ear, it's like two notes sounding together in just such a way as to suggest an entire symphony. A pattern is beginning to reveal itself, and if I don't mess it up, it could develop into something pretty cool. What am I saying? I ask them. We're talking about lies, important lies, lies right at the heart of who and what we are. We're making serious accusations. We're committing heresy because that's what heresy is, truth talk in the dream state. This is the fun stuff. Spiritual awakening, I continue, is about discovering what's true. Anything that's not about getting to the truth must be discarded. Truth isn't about knowing things. You already know too much. It's about unknowing. It's not about becoming true. It's about unbecoming false, so that all that's left is truth. If you want to become a priest or a lama or a rabbi or a theologian, then there's a lot to learn. Tons and tons. But if you want to figure out what's true, then it's a whole different process. And the last thing you need is more knowledge. I'm going to use a lot of words to say what I want to say, but ultimately I'm only saying one thing. I pace back and forth before the fire, watching the light dance on their wet, attentive faces. The shortest and simplest way to address Randy's question is to say that all belief systems are just the stories we create in order to deal with the void. Ego abhors a vacuum, so everybody's scrambling to create the illusion of something where there's nothing. Belief systems are simply the devices we use to explain away the unthinkable horror of no self. This is unfolding nicely. I sometimes have a hard time gauging response to my words, because what's completely obvious to me might be completely unbelievable to someone listening. For some of those listening, I suppose, a blanket denouncement of all of man's religions and philosophies is humongous, and for some, it's old hat. For the purposes of tonight's lesson, it's just a stepping stone. Beliefs are candles that man uses to ward off the surrounding darkness. They are the charms we use to hold infinity at bay, to dispel the black cloud that hovers over every head. I don't want to move on without nailing this down. They don't have to believe me or agree with me, but I want them all to keep up. What I'm going to say tonight isn't really for them to understand tonight, but to take with them, and they won't be able to do that if they drop out at this point. What's going on here? I ask. What's the deal? Who am I? What am I? What lies beyond? What's the point? Those are big questions, and all the religions and spiritual traditions represent our attempts to answer them. Obviously, we can't answer correctly, but that's okay because we don't have to. We just have to answer adequately. We don't have to make the black cloud disappear. We just have to make it seem dark gray instead of black. Our explanations can be 99% unsatisfying, and that's good enough, because we don't need the black cloud gone. We just need it taken down a notch. I stop speaking and let the words hang. No one moves. No one speaks. I know they're silently re-evaluating their own beliefs from this perspective, but now's not the time. I proceed. Ever been depressed? I ask them. Really depressed? Like nothing means anything? Like there's no point to anything? I can see from their reactions that they all know what I'm talking about. And what's the worst thing about those dark moments? Where do they get their power? I wait a moment so they can think about it, so they'll recognize it when I say it. From their undeniability, isn't that right? From the fact that there's no argument. When you're in that state, don't you know perfectly well that it's true? Heads nod, a few muffled assents. That's right. When you're in that space, you know it's not just a mood. You're seeing something you don't normally allow yourself to see. Your moments of blackest despair are really your most honest moments, your most lucid moments. That's when you're seeing without your protective lenses. That's when you pull back the curtain and see things as they are. A long silence. A heavy silence. Now it's personal. They've all experienced those unfiltered moments. They've all known the feeling of utter futility. And most importantly, they remember that at the heart of that black despair is the knowledge that that's what's real. Everything is futile. Picture a hand sweeping away one of those beautiful Tibetan sand mandalas, I say quietly. I find my water bottle and take a drink. This still isn't quite where the whole thing is going, but it's definitely an important stop. I don't want to leave too soon or stay too long. After a few moments, I break the silence. Anybody know any good ghost stories? They laugh, and the pall that had been descending on them is somewhat dispelled. What about atheists? Asked Martin. Don't they have any belief system to shield them? In this context, there is no such thing as an atheist. If anything, we're all agnostics, and the only distinction between any two is one of degree. Everybody believes something, but only as much as they have to, enough to function. The cloud is still there, of course, hanging over every head, mocking every hope and dream. But thanks to our religions and philosophies, It's somehow not totally black, just a very dark gray, and we can go on about our lives. Is it vampires who can't enter until they're invited? I play with that idea for a while just to keep myself amused until the invitation arrives. Randy delivers it. So what you're saying is, it's all like, everything. Everything everybody believes. It's all just like lies. Like bullshit? This isn't just any question. It's one of the biggies. This is a question that has to be asked and answered in the clearest possible terms, in the manner most likely to penetrate and stick. We've spent several minutes building up to it, preparing the way for it. But if I stopped now and gave a pop quiz, none of them would be quite sure what it was. That's the point. That's the reason that the big questions get the big production. This isn't a song we're singing or a mountain we're climbing. It's a dream we're unweaving. There's absolutely no chance that we're going to unravel a fantastically complex, multi-layered tapestry in a single evening, but the thread we're tugging on tonight can never be retightened. The fabric cannot be mended. The bell cannot be unrung. I let Randy's question hang in the air for a few moments, allowing the entire line of inquiry to establish itself in silence. All eyes are watching me expectantly. What's the wise fool gonna say? They wonder. That's part of the drama. They've heard it played the same way so many times that they have to wonder if I'm going to tap dance around the question with stock answers about respect for other people's beliefs and the validity of all viewpoints and how there's room for all of us. They expect politically correct evasions because that's what they've always heard. But this time, it's different. I'm not answering a question. I'm confirming a suspicion. Yes. I pause for dramatic effect. No belief is true. No belief is true. I just leave it hanging out there for a while, letting it imprint itself on these minds so they'll all be able to revisit it and confirm it for themselves later. This is a very big concept, but it's going to get bigger in a minute. The only movement is the dance of the flames and the falling spring rain. I speak only loudly enough to be heard. All beliefs, all concepts, all thoughts, yes, they're all false, all bullshit. Of course they are. Not just religions and spiritual teachings, but all philosophies, all ideas, all opinions. If you're going for the truth, you're not taking any of them with you. Nothing that says two, not one, survives. That's what I say. It rings true because it is true. It sounds a clear note that will resonate in these people's minds until its vibration has shaken their false belief structures into heaps of rubble. I mean, how can it not? I'm not telling them something I know. I'm showing them something they know. I take a break so everyone can do the math rather than just watch the teacher do it on the blackboard. As tempting as it may be for me to believe that I can wake people up by shaking or slapping them or just looking deeply enough into their eyes and coaxing them out, I know that the trance they're in can't be so easily broken. This sort of direct assault, though, is my version of whacking them with sticks like the Zen guys do. And now, because they still don't really see it. "Okay, Brendan," I say. He looks startled to be singled out. "What's the answer to your question?" I don't know. "What question?" the meaning of life.